At 5:14 local time, the bridge of the U.S. Navy vessel falls silent. No one calls it a setup. Not yet. But on the radar screen, 3 surface contacts have just shifted course at almost the exact same moment. They are not drifting. They are not simply following. They are turning with purpose. One moves in from starboard, another presses from port. The third angles across the vessel's bow, closing fast enough to force a choice if it keeps coming. The officer of the deck keeps his voice steady. 3 contacts maneuvering, bearing 085, 031, and 120, range decreasing. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tracks tighten on the display. The pattern does not fit normal traffic. It does not fit a routine escort. It does not fit anything ordinary. It looks like pressure being applied from 3 sides at once. The U.S. vessel is moving through the Gulf of Oman on a steady heading, a lawful transit, engines even, wake clean, no sudden turns. No aggressive moves, but the water around her is changing by the second. At 5:15, the closest contact increases speed. Through long-range optics, its outline becomes clearer. A low gray hull, sharp angles, a profile matching Iranian naval design. Moments later, CIC confirms what the bridge already suspected. 3 Iranian naval vessels. That confirmation changes everything, and at the same time, it changes nothing. The guidance remains the same. Hold course, stay disciplined, record every maneuver. The captain steps onto the bridge wing and raises his binoculars toward the horizon. He does not ask for the range. He can already hear the numbers being called behind him. Contact 1, 8.4 nautical miles. Contact 2, 7.9. Contact 3, 6.8, and closing. There is no shouting. No one rushes across the deck. On a U.S. Navy vessel, tension rarely looks dramatic. It looks controlled. Headsets go on, logs open, watches sharpen. Every sailor on the bridge leans a little closer to the task in front of them. At 5:16, bridge-to-bridge calls are sent in English. Iranian naval vessels, this is a United States Navy vessel operating in international waters. Your maneuvering is unsafe. Maintain separation. No response. The message is repeated. Still nothing. That silence lands heavier than any reply. Through the forward cameras, the lead Iranian vessel continues cutting across the ship's path. Not close enough to force an immediate turn, but close enough to make the next minute matter. Off the port side, the second vessel keeps pushing inward, matching speed as if trying to reduce the U.S. vessel's room to maneuver. The third remains wider, farther out, holding position in a way that feels less like an escort and more like control. A ring is beginning to form. At 5:17, CIC reports new electronic activity. Surface search radar is active from multiple contacts. They are watching closely now, not a precision lock. Not yet, but they are no longer passive. The tactical action officer studies the geometry. If the U.S. vessel turns starboard, it moves toward the contact already sliding in from that side. If it turns port, it opens the angle to the vessel pressing close there. If it slows too much, the contact ahead gains the advantage. If it speeds up, the closing distance becomes even harder to manage. The pressure is not created by force first, it is created by angles. On the bridge, the captain gives the order. Maintain course and speed. Log all maneuvers. Systems restrained. Do not escalate. Calm replies come back from every station. Aye, Captain. The forward mount remains off the centerline, neutral but ready. Defensive systems stay on standby. Below deck, the ship's systems come fully awake without noise or drama. Sensors refine the tracks. Cameras tighten their view. Electronic teams begin collecting every signal, every sweep, every pulse, every signature the Iranian vessels are sending into the air. At 5:18 local time, the nearest Iranian vessel moves another 1,000 yards closer. Now the sailors on the bridge can see activity on its deck without using magnification. Small figures move near the forward section. Helmets, dark uniforms, careful motion around the forward mount. Nothing openly aggressive, but nothing relaxed either. The U.S. destroyer sends another bridge-to-bridge message. This one is slower, clearer, and sharper. Iranian naval vessels, you are creating a risk of collision. Alter course immediately. No answer. The captain lowers his binoculars. They want us to blink, he says. No one replies because everyone on that bridge already understands it. At 5:19, the vessel ahead cuts even deeper across the destroyer's bow. The closest point of approach drops again. Bridge CIC. Contact one now on an intercept line. Port contact tightening. Outer contact maintaining containment position. Containment. The word stays in the air for a moment. The destroyer is still moving, still steady, still under full control. But it no longer feels like she is crossing open water. She is moving inside a shape, and that shape is being drawn around her. The other side is trying to close it. At 5:20, the sea around the American vessel looks different from every direction. Steel ahead, steel to port, steel to starboard, 3 Iranian naval vessels, 3 converging tracks, No radio response, no wasted movement, no margin for error. The captain keeps his voice calm. Standby helicopter alert. Keep recording. Nobody gives them a reason. Outside, the sun begins to rise over the Gulf of Oman. Light spreads across the water and reflects off the metal hulls. From a distance, the scene might almost look peaceful. But on the bridge of the U.S. destroyer, every eye is fixed on the closing ring. And at 5:21 local time, that ring is almost complete. At 5:22, the space around the destroyer becomes even smaller. Not by chance. The Iranian vessel off the port side adds speed first. Its bow now throws a stronger wake, white water breaking away from the hull as it pushes deeper into the destroyer's maneuvering space. Ahead, the lead vessel continues sliding across the American ship's forward track. Not close enough to force contact, but close enough to make every yard count. Off starboard, the third vessel holds wider, farther out, like the outside latch on a steel gate. 3 vessels, 3 angles, 1 shrinking box. Inside the Combat Information Center, the geometry updates second by second. Closest point of approach on lead contact continues to decrease. Port contact matching speed, starboard contact maintaining offset position. The tactical display shows the situation in clean digital lines. If the destroyer turns right, it moves toward the outer vessel's closing angle. If it turns left, it opens itself to the ship pressing in from port. If it increases speed, it risks moving deeper into the bow crossing. If it slows, it gives the Iranian formation more time to tighten the pattern. This is no longer simple shadowing, this is controlled pressure. The officer of the deck keeps his eyes forward. Maintain heading. No hesitation, no emotion, just the next correct order. At 5:23, another radar sweep rolls across the destroyer. This one is narrower, more focused. The electronic warfare team catches it immediately. Bridge, EW, multiple narrow band sweeps from Iranian contacts. Surface search focused. They are tracking our movement. Not a precision lock, not a guidance signal, but not passive observation anymore either. The Iranian vessels are actively measuring the destroyer's speed, bearing, and course changes, building a live picture of where she is and where she can still go. On the bridge wing, the captain studies the lead vessel through binoculars. The Iranian hull is close enough now that its course changes are visible without magnification. Every small adjustment means something. Every degree of rudder changes the pressure on the American ship at the center. Any response to hails? He asks. Negative, Captain. The silence continues. And at sea, silence can say more than any message over the radio. A professional crew can use communication to reduce risk and keep distance clear. But when vessels stay silent for this long, they are choosing uncertainty. And uncertainty on open water can turn dangerous fast. At 5:24, long-range optics pick up movement on the Iranian vessel off the port side. Deck activity is increasing. The surface watch reports it immediately. Personnel topside near forward mount. The camera feed tightens. A small group of sailors comes into view. Helmets, vests, one figure looking through binoculars, another standing close to the forward housing. Nothing is fully engaged. Nothing crosses the final line. But the posture has changed. This no longer looks like transit. It looks like pressure. On the destroyer's bridge, the quiet remains. That is what tension often looks like aboard a U.S. Navy ship. It does not explode outward, it compresses. Voices become shorter, reports become cleaner. Emotion does not vanish, it goes beneath the surface and stays there. At 5:25, the lead Iranian vessel cuts slightly deeper across the bow. Time to closest point of approach, 4 minutes. The officer of the deck does not look away. A hard turn now could be interpreted the wrong way. Waiting too long could leave fewer options. That is exactly what the Iranian formation appears to be trying to create. A visible American reaction, something that can be recorded, framed, and presented as proof that the pressure worked. The captain gives the next instruction. Hail them again, English and Farsi. The radio operator transmits in a steady, flat voice. Iranian naval vessels. This is a United States Navy vessel in international waters. Your maneuvers are unsafe and increasing the risk of collision. Alter course immediately. A pause follows. Then nothing. No acknowledgement. No warning. No denial. Only engines, water, and wake. At 5:26, CIC makes the call. Everyone on the bridge already feels coming. The destroyer's safe maneuvering corridor is narrowing. Lead contact on crossing line. Port contact inside preferred separation. That is the moment the situation becomes fully physical. This is no longer only about appearances. It is about hulls, momentum, timing, and distance. A ship does not need to take direct action to create danger. At sea, mass and movement are enough. As the distances close, the captain keeps the ship steady. Maintain course, maintain discipline. Below deck, the destroyer continues adjusting quietly. Sensor tracks are sharpened, video records are marked. Electronic signatures from each Iranian vessel are collected, sorted, and time-stamped. The forward mount remains ready but restrained. Defensive systems stay quiet but alert. No final threshold has been crossed. Not yet. At 5:27, the Iranian vessel on the port side edges closer again. The bridge crew can now see spray breaking from its bow in sharp detail. It is close enough to feel personal, close enough for everyone topside to understand the same thing at once. There is no room left for careless movement. Then CIC reports the number that changes the atmosphere. Captain, if present closure continues, safe turning margin will be lost inside the next minute. That lands heavily. For the first time since the maneuver began, the destroyer is nearing the edge of a box created by 3 Iranian vessels, moving together and saying nothing. Ahead, the crossing ship keeps pressing. To port, the second vessel keeps squeezing. To starboard, the third remains outside, positioned to tighten the space if the American ship turns the wrong way. The bridge stays calm, but calm does not mean comfort. Calm means control under pressure. At 5:28 local time, the U.S. destroyer is still on course, still steady, still disciplined. But the water around her has turned into a moving pattern designed to force one wrong decision. And at 5:28, the destroyer stops simply absorbing the pressure. She becomes active. Not through escalation, not through dramatic action, through posture. Inside the Combat Information Center, the change is immediate, but measured. The ship's radar refines all 3 Iranian tracks with tighter precision. Long-range optics shift from simple observation to continuous tracking. Electronic teams narrow their collection windows, pulling in every sweep, every pulse, and every signal the Iranian vessels send across the water. On the bridge, the captain gives the order without raising his voice. Set active surface posture. Launch the helo. That changes the equation. The destroyer is still boxed in by 3 Iranian vessels, but now the situation is no longer limited to the surface. What had been a flat, tightening formation is about to become a 3-dimensional problem, and that favors the Americans. At 5:29 below the flight deck, the MH-60R Seahawk crew is already in motion. Helmets on, harnesses secured, checklists cut down to what matters most. On a destroyer, when the situation turns serious, there is no wasted movement. Everyone knows the helicopter is not going up to start something. It is going up to see, document, and apply pressure from above. The rotors begin to turn. On the bridge wing, a few sailors glance aft for half a second, just long enough to hear the engines rise in pitch. Then their eyes return to the 3 Iranian hulls, still closing the space around the ship. Ahead, the lead vessel remains on its crossing line. To port, the second ship is still inside the preferred separation zone. To starboard, the outer contact holds wide, waiting for the American destroyer to make the wrong move. At 5:30, the Seahawk lifts cleanly from the deck. Its nose dips low over the wake. Then it banks away, turning hard toward the Iranian formation. From above, the geometry becomes impossible to ignore. What may look manageable from the bridge can look like a steel funnel from 200 feet in the air. Inside CIC, the live video feed comes alive. Visual on all 3 contacts, the aircrew reports. Formation consistent with containment maneuver. That word again, containment. The aircraft's sensors begin working immediately. Infrared picks up hot engine exhaust against the cool morning water. Zoom optics isolate movement on each Iranian deck. Now the crew can see details the destroyer could only suspect from sea level. Personnel gathering near forward sections. Movement inside bridge windows. Radar arrays still sweeping. At 5:31, the destroyer sends no dramatic signal and makes no reckless move. Instead, the bridge-to-bridge channel opens again. Iranian naval vessels. This is a United States Navy vessel operating in international waters. Your maneuvers are unsafe. Alter course and maintain separation. No reply. Then the Seahawk crew adds its own call from above, sharper and harder to ignore. Iranian naval vessels. This is United States Navy aircraft. You are conducting unsafe maneuvers near a U.S. warship. Change course immediately. The message is repeated. Still nothing. But now silence costs the Iranian formation more than before. Every second of it is being recorded from above, time-stamped, geotagged, and fed directly into the destroyer's tactical picture. At 5:32, the destroyer's forward mount turns a few deliberate degrees. Not enough to provoke, more than enough to be noticed. The close-in defensive system remains on standby, its white housing still motionless, but impossible to miss. The destroyer is no longer pretending to be just another ship passing through. She is sending an old naval message in the clearest possible way. We are controlled. We are ready, and we are not alone. The Seahawk drops lower, not recklessly, not provocatively, just close enough to own the airspace above the Iranian formation. From that height, Every crewman topside can read the markings on the aircraft. They can see its sensors. They can see the side-mounted equipment. They know the helicopter is watching every vessel at the same time. And that matters, because pressure at sea is not only about strength. It is about who controls the picture. At 5:33, the first weakness appears in the ring. Bridge CIC, starboard contact reducing speed, slightly but confirmed. The outer Iranian vessel's wake shortens. Its bow settles a little lower into the water. It is still part of the formation, still close, still a factor. But it is no longer pressing with the same confidence it had a minute earlier. The lead vessel ahead does not pull away. Not yet. It keeps its crossing line. The portside vessel remains close, holding that side of the box tight. The pressure is still real, but now one piece of the formation is beginning to hesitate. On the Seahawk's video feed, the reason is clear. The helicopter's orbit is forcing the outer vessel to operate under direct overhead observation. Every turn is visible. Every adjustment is being recorded. Every mistake will be difficult to deny. That does not stop a determined crew, but it can make them think twice. At 5:34, the Iranian response changes. No voice on the radio, no explanation, no warning, just another radar sweep. The electronic warfare officer catches it immediately. EW to bridge. Starboard contact is painting the aircraft. Surface search only. No engagement control signal. The mood tightens again. Now the Iranian vessels are not only reacting to the destroyer, they are treating the helicopter as part of the tactical picture. That brings the situation one step closer to a line no one wants to cross. The captain does not react visibly. Continue recording. Aircraft maintains orbit. Ship holds course. Ahead, the crossing vessel still threatens the destroyer's path. To port, steel still presses close. Above them, the Seahawk circles like a witness no one requested and no one can ignore. At 5:35 local time, the destroyer is still inside the box. But now the box belongs to both sides. Iran is no longer the only one shaping the moment. At 5:35, the pressure reaches its highest point. The Iranian vessel ahead pushes deeper across the destroyer's bow. Not by much, just enough to turn an already tense crossing into a real navigational hazard. From the bridge of the U.S. destroyer, the move looks bold. From the Seahawk overhead, it looks even worse. The lead vessel is no longer only limiting the American ship's options, it is starting to limit the options of its own formation. Inside the Combat Information Center, the helicopter feed fills one screen while the surface plot fills another. Together, they show what no single bridge can see by itself. The lead Iranian vessel is cutting too far across. The portside vessel is still closing too tightly. The outer vessel to starboard is no longer holding a clean containment arc. The geometry is beginning to break down. Bridge CIC, the tactical action officer says. Iranian lead contact is overcommitting the crossing line. Port contact remains high closure. Risk of formation conflict increasing. That gets everyone's attention, because now the danger is no longer one-sided. The Iranian formation created this box to pressure a U.S. destroyer. But at sea, pressure pushes both ways. Push too hard, and eventually the steel starts pushing back. At 5:36, the Seahawk crew confirms what the radar plot has already begun to show. Lead contact is cutting inside safe separation with the portside vessel. Recommend maintaining steady course. Their spacing is degrading. The captain does not hesitate. Maintain heading. Come left 2 degrees only if required for navigation. No sudden movements. It is a small order, but it matters. The destroyer will not lurch. She will not flinch. She will not give the Iranian formation a clean image of an American ship reacting under pressure. If an opening appears, it will be taken with control, not desperation. Ahead, the Iranian bow wave grows heavier as the crossing vessel digs into its turn. To port, the second vessel keeps pressing in, still trying to reduce the destroyer's room to almost nothing. But from above, the Seahawk now shows the truth clearly. The 2 Iranian vessels are moving toward the same shrinking patch of water. The bridge-to-bridge channel opens again. Iranian naval vessels, you are creating an immediate risk of collision. Your maneuvers are unsafe. Alter course now. This time, the message is more than a routine warning. It is a recorded notice, delivered over open channels with witnesses in the air, while the helicopter captures every meter of closing distance from above. No reply, but the next movement says enough. At 5:37, the Iranian vessel on the port side suddenly shifts rudder. Not a smooth turn, a correction. Its bow kicks away from the destroyer just enough to avoid moving deeper into the path of its own lead vessel. The wake behind it bends sharply. Spray breaks along the hull. For the first time since the formation began tightening, the Iranian ships no longer look like one coordinated wall. They look like 3 vessels trying to avoid the same error at the same time. Inside CIC, the call comes quickly. Port contact turning out. Lead ship still crossing. Starboard contact widening. That is the moment the ring breaks. Not all at once, not dramatically, but enough. The destroyer does not rush forward. She does not swing hard. She does not take the opening like a ship trying to escape. Instead, she does something far more damaging to the story the Iranian side may have wanted to tell. She stays controlled. The officer of the deck makes a slight adjustment, measured and lawful, just enough to preserve safe passage through the gap now opening between the lead crossing vessel and the port-side ship, forced outward by its own captain's last-second correction. From above, the Seahawk records everything: the crossing angle, the correction, the widening wake, the near overlap in the Iranian maneuver lines. This is no longer just a matter of opinion, it is data. At 5:38, the lead Iranian vessel realizes the shape of the formation has been lost. Its stern swings wider than before as it tries to recover spacing. The starboard vessel, already slowed under the helicopter's orbit, falls farther off and is no longer positioned to close the outer wall. The destroyer is still between them, but she is no longer inside a sealed box. The tactical action officer watches the plot update. Captain, containment formation has degraded. American ship retains maneuver corridor. That is the first clear tactical win of the encounter. No dramatic exchange, no hard escalation, no open hatches, just pressure, overreach, and one side making the first mistake. On the bridge wing, the captain keeps the lead Iranian vessel in his binoculars. It is still close, still serious, still carrying weight, steel, and national pride. But it is no longer controlling the geometry. That control has slipped. Not because of force, not because of a warning move, because of discipline. At 5:39, the Seahawk drops lower for one more pass. Not reckless, not provocative, just present enough to remind every sailor topside on those Iranian vessels that the mistake has been seen from every angle that matters. The aircrew reports movement across the Iranian decks. Some men pull back from exposed positions, others look upward. One points toward the disrupted wake behind the lead ship. Nobody looks relaxed. Nobody looks like they have won. The captain gives the next order. Maintain transit, continue recording, no pursuit. That matters too. The U.S. destroyer is not there to chase. It is there to hold its lawful course, maintain control, and let the record speak for itself. In waters like these, the side that stays calm usually tells the stronger story. By 5:40 local time, the Iranian formation is still in sight. Still close, still capable of becoming a problem again. But the trap is gone. Iran had the numbers. Iran had the angles. Iran had the initiative. Then it pushed too hard. And inside the tight space it created around an American destroyer, it came close to boxing in itself. At 5:40 local time, the water finally begins to open. Not much, not all at once, but enough. The Iranian vessel that had been cutting across the destroyer's bow is no longer holding the same sharp crossing line. Its angle softens by a few degrees. Off-port, the ship that had turned outward to avoid crowding its own lead vessel now stays wider than before. It is no longer pressing the American hull at the same uncomfortable distance. To starboard, the outer contact continues to fall back. Its wake is shorter now. Its role has changed from closing the shape to simply watching. Inside the Combat Information Center, the update comes in with the flat, controlled tone the U.S. Navy uses when something important has just happened. Bridge, CIC, all three Iranian contacts increasing separation. No current collision vector. American ship retains safe corridor. That is the moment the encounter changes. Not because the risk has disappeared, because the shape of it no longer works. The destroyer does not accelerate. She does not turn away sharply. She does not show relief. She simply continues forward on her lawful course through the Gulf of Oman. Engines steady, rudder disciplined, every system still awake. Above, the Seahawk continues its orbit. No longer watching a closing ring, the Seahawk is now watching three separate vessels trying to rebuild their formation after failing to hold it. At 5:41, the bridge-to-bridge circuit opens one last time. Iranian naval vessels, this is a United States Navy vessel. Your unsafe maneuvers have been recorded. We are continuing lawful transit in international waters. Maintain separation. This time, an answer finally comes. It is brief, delayed, carefully measured. United States warship, Iranian naval units are conducting routine patrol in nearby waters. No apology, no admission. No explanation for the silence, the crossing angles, or the breakdown of their own formation. Just a statement for the record. The captain listens without changing expression. On the bridge, no one mistakes the reply for confidence. It sounds exactly like what it is. An attempt to reshape the story after the moment has already moved beyond their control. At 5:42, the lead Iranian vessel falls a few more degrees away from the destroyer's bow. It is still close enough to track, still capable, still important. But the dangerous geometry is gone. The portside vessel now holds outside the preferred separation distance, no longer pressing inward. The starboard vessel, which had once acted like the outer lock on the box, is now almost detached from the formation it helped create. 3 vessels had tried to surround a U.S. destroyer. Now they are simply 3 contacts moving on different lines. Inside the Combat Information Center, the record keeps growing. Every radar sweep, every course change, every unanswered hail, every second of helicopter video, every narrowing approach, every correction the Iranian vessels were forced to make when their own formation began folding in on itself. That matters, because in encounters like this, the deciding factor is not always firepower or size. Sometimes it is the record. Clear, time-stamped, multi-angle proof of who stayed controlled and who lost the shape first. At 5:43, the Seahawk crew reports that deck activity on the Iranian vessels is easing. Sailors who had gathered near the forward sections are now moving back. Activity inside the bridges remains steady, but the overall posture has changed. No one topside looks casual. No one looks victorious either. The helicopter banks slightly, holding its altitude as the destroyer moves through the last stretch of the danger zone. The captain gives the next order. Recover the aircraft when ready. Maintain active surface posture until all contacts open further. There is no celebration, no dramatic reaction. No one acts like the moment is over just because the pressure has started to fade. A professional crew understands the difference between getting through a crisis and being clear of it. At 5:44, the sun is higher, laying bright morning light across the hulls of all 4 ships. From a distance, the Gulf of Oman almost looks calm again. Blue water, white wake, a clean horizon. But everyone aboard that destroyer knows what just happened. Only minutes earlier, one wrong move could have changed everything. A misread turn, a late correction, a closing angle taken too far. The steel had come that close. The pressure had been that real. And still, the American destroyer never lost control of herself. She never gave the image the Iranian vessels appeared to be waiting for. She never turned a lawful transit into a rushed maneuver. She never let the pressure decide her course. That is the real ending. Not that the Iranian vessels disappeared. They did not. Not that the destroyer claimed some dramatic victory. Not that the moment turned into open confrontation. The ending is simpler than that. The U.S. destroyer held the line. At 5:45, CIC delivers the final tactical assessment. All Iranian contacts remain visible. No active containment geometry. Transit corridor secure. The bridge takes it in quietly. Around the ship, sailors begin easing back from compressed focus into routine watchstanding, but only slightly. The tension does not vanish. It simply thins. That is life aboard a destroyer. Even when the sea looks calm, part of the crew is always living 1 second away from the next problem. Aft, the Seahawk turns back toward the flight deck. Mission complete. Its sensors are carrying the full record home with it. The overhead view, the timing, the angles, the proof that everything out there happened in plain sight. The captain looks one more time toward the 3 Iranian vessels now widening across the water. They had the numbers, one sailor says quietly. The captain does not look away. They lost the shape. And that is exactly what happened. 3 Iranian vessels had the angles, the pressure, and the silence. They tried to close space around a U.S. destroyer in the Gulf of Oman. They tried to force a visible American reaction. Instead, the destroyer held course. The helicopter took the sky. The formation cracked. And when the moment turned, it was not the United States that gave way first.